Harry Pedigo, tuning in. How you guys doing? It's the middle of the week. Congratulations. Happy Wednesday to you. Hope you guys are doing well. So, we're halfway through the week now with writing, and that is a time for reflection. It's an important day because Wednesday, ideally, is a time where you should be kind of like halfway, if not more than halfway done with your articles. Now, and people work at different paces. You don't need to be done right now, obviously, but this is a time to really think about, okay, am I budgeting enough time to get my article done on time? And what's preventing me from doing that? What's getting me down about my article, or what's being problematic? And again, I want to remind you guys that the best way to deal with the writing of these articles in a time, in a short amount of time, not to waste time, is to have a very clear idea of where your article is going from the beginning to the end, right? Have a very clear goal in your writing that'll help you out. Brainstorm about what you can write about. Come up with a goal. Now, if you've already completed an article, I see a lot of I do this myself. You're so happy to be done with writing the article that you don't take the time to go back and proofread your own article. And I can't stress enough how important it is for us to go through and literally read the article like we're sending it to a publishing company. Like, really spend some time and read it slowly, look at every single word, look at every single sentence. Did this sentence make sense? Is that a run-on sentence? Did I mess up my punctuation? Did I misspell something? You honestly, as a writer, you have to go through and proofread. Your proofreading, I think, is, if you don't proofread, you don't spend the time to make corrections, why even bother writing? And I know that sounds harsh, but that's the truth of it. You have to proofread. So if you have finished up an article at this point, what you should do, don't worry about writing the next articles. Proofread that one article today and just see if you just make sure, is it perfect? I want perfect work. You know what I mean? You want perfect work. We want to be excellent at our craft. We don't want to be scrubs. You don't want to be a scrub at writing. Really, proofreading is absolutely crucial. And I think that if you're doing 3 articles this week, so if you could proofread one by Wednesday and have it completely done, like I legitimately proofread that article, it's perfect. It's the best work I can do. Then you have a third of your entire newsletter completely done. You're not going to be rushing there Friday night, trying to eat your Friday dinner and watch TV while you're having to slave away with Mr. Pedigo's articles. Proofread now. The future, we're living in the residual. What we do today dictates what tomorrow is going to be like. So take the time, proofread your articles. You'll thank me for it later. You'll see far less comments and suggestions and criticisms on your Google Documents from me if you take the time to proofread and avoid silly mistakes and things that don't help you reach your goal in your writing. Good job, though. Keep up the good work. All right, 8th grade, what's going on? So today we're talking about pages 118. I think so. Probably 117. Sorry, I can't remember. We know that the fight between Hector and Ajax is finished. No winner. Hashtag draw. Hashtag tie. They don't get hurt, right? They're both. It shows, first of all, how strong of a warrior Ajax is. And it shows that this is really just buying both sides of the army, both sides time just to recover. Because as we see in today's reading, which will be like 117 through, just finish up book 7, 121. It's not very long. We're to see that what happens after this fight is a time of reflection on both sides. The Trojans reflect, and they say, what we should do, we got to give Helen back to the Achaeans and all her possessions, because she was the start of the war. She was taken away from Menelaus. Not very nice. And then Paris, of course, doesn't respond well to that. Page 118. He's this is a stupid, absolutely not. I will give back the possessions, you know. But you know, there's a lot of back and forth there, a lot of different opinions. We learn a lot from this tail end of book 7 about how people communicate. You know what I mean? It helps us learn how we can communicate more effectively as young adults, right? And as human beings. There's always a back and forth, and it's important to listen to both sides of the argument, right? To understand both sides. That's the fundamentals of arguing, right? If you want to be a good person defending a position, a good arguer, a good debater is the word I was looking for. If you want to be a good debater, you have to understand both sides. It's not just blindly, this is what we're going to do, and there's no other way around it, right? You have to be a good listener. And we see that on page 119. They all listen to him with attention, right? There's a lot of, this is the first time we see some like legitimate kind of communication. It's neat to see what each character suggests, because both sides seem to be very, very, they want the war to be over. And they're like, Paris, please just give Helen back. Please give her possessions back. He's like, no. And then the Achaeans are, of course, they're like, it's like, can we please just get out of here? We don't want to. We're done. And then Diomedes, you gotta pay attention. You got to pay attention to the last paragraph on page 119, because this is why I love Diomedes. Because he's like, Diomedes speaks up, and basically the arrangement is that the Trojans maybe we're going to give back the possessions of Helen to kind of say, here's her possessions, now can we stop the fight? And Diomedes, he's like, let no man agree to accept these possessions from Paris or take back Helen. Even a fool can see that the Trojans are doomed. And so Diomedes, the classic encourager, he's like, don't even take Helen back. That's hilarious. I love that. That's why I love Diomedes. He's my favorite character right now. We do see on pages 120 through 121, please read this last part of book 7. It's supposed to be one of the most poetic scenes in the Iliad, where we see the sun fading and setting, and you see the thousands of warriors there camped, and they have these funeral pyres. We know that there's a lot of dead people, tons of dead people, and imagine they're burning the bodies, right? Which is a burial practice in some cultures. Is basically like cremation. And you think about they're having to burn the bodies of their friends. I mean, and they've been doing this combat has been going on so long. This is a really crucial part of the Iliad, where we see, one, the conversation that's revealing about each character, especially Diomedes, our guy, and we see how they're Helen's role in all of this. We see that there's negotiations. We see that they reflect on this, and it's difficult for them to make a decision on how to move forward, and we see just the devastating effects of battle, the bodies being burned. Crazy. See what happens on pages 120 and 121, the end of this book 7. What's going to happen? What's the agreement? What do they decide to do? And we'll tune back in and jump into book 8 tomorrow. Peace out. Oops, it's still on.